Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome back to Football Discussions. Today, I will be going over my college football preseason top 25 going into the 2019 season. Basically, what I did is I gathered a ton of research on all of these teams and decided if they were worthy to be in the top 25 and if they were, where they should be placed. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. At number 25, we had Missouri. Last year, they went 7-6 and finished unranked. Missouri finished is returning 13 starters this year. Not to mention, they also returned Larry Roundtree, who was one of the best running backs in the SEC last year. And they also have a pretty easy schedule for SEC wise. They are at the 41st strength, or have the 41st strength of schedule in college football, so that should allow them to get a lot of wins. I'm looking at this team to finish around 9-3. We'll see how everything unfolds, though. So yeah, Missouri is at 25. At 24, I put Stanford. Last year they finished 9-4, also unranked. They had a really good offseason. They had the fourth Pac-12 recruiting class, although they did only return 9 starters. A huge key piece of this offense returned, and that's quarterback Kevin Costello. I'm really excited to see how he performs in the Pac-12 this year. While Stanford does have to play an Oregon team and a Washington team, it should be hopefully a 10-win season and a 2-loss if you're a Stanford fan, but we'll see how everything plays out. But I think they definitely deserve to be ranked with the talent they brought in. At number 23, I put Michigan State 7-6 last year on finish unranked. This team was torn apart by injuries last year. Obviously, not the performance they had, wanted. However, they were returning 17 of 22 starters, which is a ridiculous amount. So a lot of talent is coming back to this team. A lot of guys are fully healed and ready to play. They had one of the best defenders in the Big Ten, Joe I don't know if it's Bacci or Baki, who's returning, and Brian Lewerke's coming back for his senior season. So all these factors combined is why I did rank them, although I could see them being higher and even making a run in the Big Ten this year. I did put them at 23 to start the year. At number 22, I put Northwestern. Last year they finished 9-5, and at number 21, I'm a huge fan of this team. They're returning 12 starters. Not to mention they got the quarterback transfer Hunter Johnson from Clemson to start at QB. He was a 5-star out of high school, and also the guy on the right side of your screen, that big picture there, Blake Gallagher, led the Big Ten in tackles, which is huge for this team to return that monster on defense. So I'm really excited to see how this team performs. I'm really excited to see how Hunter Johnson performs. So yeah, Northwestern, number 22. At number 21, Nebraska. Last year they were 4-8, finished unranked. A really disappointing season, first year for head coach Scott Frost, but I think he's really going to turn around this team. He has all the pieces in place. 13 returning starters. Not to mention he has Adrian Martinez, who's already getting Heisman buzz at that quarterback position, and they had the fourth recruiting class in the Big Ten. So a really big offseason for them. And like I said, I think Frost has all the pieces in place to succeed this season. So I think Northwestern is another team that can make a run at a Big Ten championship. At number 20, I put UCF. Last year they went 12-1. They didn't finish undefeated, which was kind of a bummer, but they did finish at number 11. I had to put them all the way back at 20 just because of the fact that they're in the AAC and they don't play a lot of hard teams. So just that to begin with should kind of downgrade them for strength of schedule. They do have 13 returning starters, but I think the loss of Mackenzie Milton hurts this team bad. Although they did get transfer Brandon Wimbush from Notre Dame, which should help. Although he didn't really play great at Notre Dame either, so I'm interested to see how this UCF team performs, and we'll just see how everything pans out. But yeah, number 20 UCF. At number 19, I put Wisconsin. Last year they went 8-5, another disappointing season, unranked. However, I think Jonathan Taylor is just going to pop off even more this year. His freshman season and his sophomore season were just absurd. He won best running back last year, I believe. He's just got so much potential. I think he's really going to succeed at the next level in the NFL. But just the returning of him is huge. They also returned 12 or 11 other starters. So I think this Wisconsin team can succeed, and I'm excited to see how things pan out for them. At number 18, I put TCU. Last year, another team that had a disappointing season. They went 7-6 and finished unranked. But this was one of the most banged up. Another team like Michigan State, just really banged up. However, they do have 7 offensive starters returning, and one of the best receivers in the Big 12 last year, Jalen Rieger, is going to come back for his junior season, and I'm just really excited to see how he plays. He had one of the highest catch percentages, one of the highest yards per catch, just a really big, deep threat target. And I think that he can really just shine this season, as well as a fully healthy TCU team can shine. So I'm excited to see if this team get back on their feet. At number 17, we have Utah. Utah is getting a lot of buzz this season. Last year, they went 9-5, finished unranked, but they have 14 starters returning. They're the reigning Pac-12 South champs, even though they did lose their quarterback and running back Zach Moss towards the end of that season and lost a few games in that final stretch. According to Phil Steele, who I'll reference a lot in this video, he's just a really trustworthy college football source. This team has the number 1 defensive line in college football, so exciting to see how that happens or how that pans out. So this Utah team has a lot of talent, and we'll see how it all pans out. Number 16, Miami. I know a lot of people think Miami's bad. I think a lot of people think they're going to lose to Florida. But I could see this Miami team shocking a lot of people. They have 12 starters returning, and they really have this national championship caliber defense led by the linebacker Shaquille Quarterman. This guy has started all 3 seasons. He's going into his senior year. He's 3-time All ACC, and now they also have transferred Tate Martell. So I think he's going to be the deciding factor for this Miami team. If he plays well, then the rest of this team can really shine. A fairly easy schedule for them this year. I don't think they play Clemson in the regular season, which is huge. And not to mention, they got rid of Mark Richt, and Manny Diaz is taking over at head coach. And Diaz is just a really good defensive-minded guy. He was the defensive coordinator for the past couple of years. And if you know anything about Miami football, you know that the place that they have shined, no matter how bad their offense is playing, is their defense. So I think Diaz can take this team to the next level, and I'm excited to see how they perform this year. Number 15, I put Washington. Last year they went 10-4 and finished number 13. They only have 9 starters returning. They are the reigning Pac-12 champs, and they do have Jacob Eason, transfer from Georgia, who is showing promise. I'm excited to see how he performs this year. And they did have the second best recruiting class in the Pac-12, so that's just a huge offseason for them. While they did lose a lot of guys, they got a solid recruiting class. So I think this team can make a run at that Pac-12 championship again, and we'll see how they play this year. At number 14, I have Auburn. Last year, a disappointing season for them. They went 8-5 and finished unranked, but they have 14 starters returning. And I'm not saying Stidham was a bad quarterback, but they finally got Gus Malzahn finally has that quarterback that fits his scheme. Not to mention they have one of the top 3 defenses in college football in my mind. Just an insane defensive line. They're going to wreak havoc on SEC quarterbacks. I'm excited to see how this Auburn team plays. So yeah, they're going to be sitting at 14 in my preseason top 25. 13, another SEC school, Texas A&M. Last year they went 9-4 and finished number 16. They have 11 starters returning and had the 3rd recruiting class in the SEC. I think they had a top 10 recruiting class in general, and not to mention they had quarterback Kellen Mond returning. So all these factors are just going to lead them to have an exciting season. They have a really hard schedule this year, but I think they could play well versus teams like Alabama. So it's going to be interesting to watch how this A&M team plays. Number 12, we have Penn State. Last year they went 9-4, finished number 17. Another team with a decent amount of starters returning at 12. They have the 2nd recruiting class in the Big Ten. And a really good defense led by the guy you see on your screen there, Micah Parsons. Not to mention one of the most explosive deep threats in college football, KJ Hamler, returns. So I'm excited to see how all these factors lead to Penn State succeeding, or in my mind, I think Penn State is a tricky team because they can either perform and live up to their potential and be a top 10 school, or they could really fall out this year and become a bust. So it'll be interesting to see. Number 11, I put Oregon. Last year they went 9-4 unranked. Justin Herbert, already a Heisman candidate, is coming back for his senior year. I really like that move by him. He did not have, I think, the junior year he wanted. There was a lot of buzz around him last year, and he didn't have a bad season, but I think he's just really going to shine this year. They have the 7th recruiting class in the nation, something that you haven't seen from Oregon in a couple of years. And, I mean, Mario Cristobal has this championship team in his hands, and it's now just time for him to put it all on the table and make a run. Not to mention they're in the Pac-12, I think the weakest of the Power 5 conferences. So I think if Oregon plays well, they could have an 11-1 or even 12-0 season. So it's just going to be really fun to see this Oregon team play and how this team shapes up. Number 10, I put Michigan. Last year they went 10-3, finished number 14. A lot of people want Michigan higher this year. I've seen even like projections of them at number 4 or 5. And I think that's kind of ridiculous. When you look at Michigan versus big teams, it's sad to say, but this team does not play well, whether it's Ohio State or Notre Dame last year. It seems like always in big games, right on that line of making the playoff, they choke and they ruin their chances for a playoff appearance. And so that's why I can't put Michigan higher than 10. Although they do have 13 returning players and did have the first recruiting class in Big Ten, which are all upsides. Not to mention they have Phil Steele's 5th defense. So a lot of these factors are good. But like I said, I just can't put them higher than 10 right now just because of their choking ability. I'm interested to see how this team plays coming out of the gate. And Jim Harbaugh just released a statement that he wants to redefine what a starter is in college football, and that statement was behind the fact that he said that both Shea Patterson and Dylan McCaffrey, younger brother of Christian McCaffrey, are going to get minutes at quarterback this year for Michigan. So both of them are going to play every single game a little quarterback. So I'm excited to see how that pans out. But this Michigan team has a lot to prove for themselves going into 2019. Number 9, Texas. Last year they were at 10-4, finished number 9 in the nation. They had a really good offseason. They had the 3rd recruiting class in the nation, not to mention another Heisman candidate, Sam Ehlinger, returns, and they also got one of the best receivers returning, Colin Johnson. So I'm excited to see how this young Texas team plays. I think they can make a run towards the playoff, and it all depends how they perform against Big 12 teams such as Oklahoma. But yeah, right now I'm going to put them at number 9. At number 8, I put Notre Dame. Last year they went 12-1, finishing number 5. They had 13 returning starters. Ian Book returns, and they had the 15th recruiting class in the nation. I think it all depends on how this Notre Dame defense plays this year. I'm not a fan of putting Notre Dame in the top 5 this year, just because they refuse to join a conference. They like to be independent, and that really just takes away their strength of schedule. While they do play teams like Michigan, it's just not enough. For example, a team in the SEC might have to play Georgia or Florida or Alabama, LSU, Auburn. So I just think it's hard to put these teams that are independents or in the AAC, just like these lower level conferences, so high. So that's why Notre Dame's sitting at 8. At number 7, we have Florida. Last year they went 10-3, finishing number 7. They have the 9th recruiting class in the nation. Felipe Franks returns. I'm really excited to see how he plays. He was actually drafted to the MLB, so should be fun to see how, if it's a Kyler Murray situation, if he has a really good year this year, if he decides to go to the NFL or MLB. Not to mention Florida has a top secondary in the nation, and it feels almost hard for a coach like Mullen not to do better in his second year. So I'm excited to see what he brings to the table this year for Florida. I'm expecting big things from this team. At number 6, I have LSU. I kind of want to put LSU higher, but I stuck them at 6 for now. They had such a good offseason, and I mean, not to mention they had 16 starters returning, 5th recruiting class in the nation, and they have by far the best secondary in the nation, led by the man you see on your screen there, Grant Delpit. Definitely a top 3 pick next year in the draft. And according to Phil Steele, they have the 4th overall defense. So this is a scary defense for LSU. And I'm excited to see how quarterback Joe Burrow performs this year. I think that's going to be a factor in this LSU's offense. But for right now, I'll stick them at 6. Number 5, we have Oklahoma, and no, that is not Kyler Murray on your screen. That's transfer from Alabama, Jalen Hurts, who will be the starting quarterback. I think he's going to be a key factor, his play and how he performs in this new fit, which I think is such a better scheme fit for him than Alabama was in Oklahoma. So they had the 6th recruiting class in the nation, 12 starters returning, and Phil Steele's 2nd overall offense. So I'm really excited to see how this Oklahoma team plays. They have a ton of weapons: CeeDee Lamb, Trey Sermon, Jalen Hurts. So it's just going to be fun to watch. Number 4, I put the Buckeyes. Last year they went 13-1 and finished number 3 in the country. They have the 2nd recruiting class in the Big Ten this offseason. And Justin Fields brings a new kind of spark that this Ohio State team has not had in a while. I mean, I know JT Barrett, that you can qualify as a running quarterback, and even Cardale Jones, you can qualify as a running quarterback. But they don't, and obviously Dwayne Haskins is a strict pocket passer, but they haven't had this like true dual threat, speedy, athletic quarterback that Justin Fields is in a while. So I'm excited to see the spark that he brings to this Ohio State offense, now coached by Ryan Day, and they also have 13 starters returning. So I think this Ohio State team can absolutely make a Big Ten championship run in the playoff run this year. At number 3, I put Georgia. Last year they went 11-3 and finished number 8. They had the 2nd recruiting class in the nation. Jake Fromm returns, another Heisman candidate. They have 12 starters returning and an absolute stud at the running back position in DeAndre Swift. So I think Georgia is going to put on a show this year. I'm excited to see if they can get over the edge that they couldn't last year and make the playoff. I don't doubt that we'll see another SEC championship rematch of Alabama versus Georgia. So I'm excited to see how this team plays. Number 2, I put the Clemson Tigers. Number 1 and number 2 are pretty obvious that it's Alabama and Clemson. It was just whether to put these teams where. And Clemson I had to put at 2. They had a really good offseason, but I just had to put Alabama higher, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Some factors that make Clemson better than almost all the teams in college football, except for one, is they have Trevor Lawrence, who has been an NFL-ready quarterback since he was in high school. He's already a Heisman favorite. They have the best recruiting class in the ACC, and their 4 most productive offensive players return, whether it's Travis Etienne, Justin Ross, T. Higgins, or Trevor Lawrence. All these guys are coming back, so that is a lot of major points to why Clemson is higher than all these other teams. The thing that I don't like about this Clemson team, and I know they had a good recruiting class, but they lost their Power Rangers squad, as they call themselves, that defensive line, who are just unstoppable. Christian Wilkins, Dexter Lawrence, the list goes on and on. But that's a huge loss for this team, and I know they have talent on the defensive line still because they are such a good recruiting school. But you can't lose those 4 starters and not have a gap missing from your team. So that's why I had to put them a little lower than Alabama, who is my number 1 team. Last year they went 14-1, finished the year at number 2. They had, surprise, surprise, the best recruiting class in the nation. Tua is already a Heisman candidate, a Heisman favorite in some cases. And this team has the 44th strength of schedule as an SEC school. So they have a pretty cakewalk season to make it a 12-0 season. So we'll see how Bama plays this year. And they have 12 starters returning. So I think Saban is going to put together a great team this year. And we'll see how it all pans out. But yeah, guys, that is my college football top 25. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like. If you want to see more NFL and college football content, please subscribe. But that's going to do it for today's video, and we'll see you guys next time.